This short video presentation aims to look at some of the issues surrounding cross-curricular teaching and learning. I will look at what cross-curricular means and why it has been debated for so long. We will look at how this is being used in schools at the moment, taking evidence from my own personal experience, and the advantages and disadvantages of this type of teaching and learning. There are many varying definitions of what cross-curricular means, but for the purpose of this presentation I will take one of the most commonly used definitions of cross-curricular learning from Alexander Rose and Woodhead 1992, a mode of curriculum organisation frequently inquiry-based, combining aspects of various subjects under a common theme. This presentation will focus on the special relationship between maths and science and how and why these subjects are linked in the early years. Cross-curricular teaching is not a new concept in our primary schools, and it is not unusual to see cross-curricular lessons going on in schools in the UK today. For years, the idea of cross-curricular teaching and learning has been debated in government, right from the early 1930s, the Haydale Report, and later the Plowden Report in 1967 both approved of this way of learning. Then more recently, the National Primary Strategy in England 2003 said that if strong enough links are created, then there is no requirement for subjects to be taught discretely. They can be grouped or taught through projects, and that knowledge and skills can be used across the whole curriculum. The independent review into the primary curriculum in 2009 found that both cross-curricular teaching and also subject teaching are both prevalent in primary schools today. And Rose 2009 made recommendations to use cross-curricular approaches to strengthen teaching and learning. Ofsted also highly regard cross-curricular teaching. In 2010, they said that when done well, cross-curricular approaches can have a positive impact on pupils' attainment and personal development. However, cross-curricular teaching hasn't always been praised in government. Former Education Secretary Michael Gove claimed that we need teachers to actively pass on knowledge, organising academic disciplines. He believed that combining subjects can dumb down the knowledge that children are being taught. Early years foundation stage framework lends itself greatly to a cross-curricular approach, and practitioners often set up cross-curricular activities in the early years. It is well known and supported that children in the early years learn predominantly through play. Silver et al., the EPI project, so it can often be unintentional cross-curricular learning that takes place within the early years setting. The two specific areas of mathematics and understanding the world, which is where science is covered in the UIFS, are interlinked in the Development Matters document. This diagram shows how closely they can be taught in the foundation stage. As stated in Teaching the Early Years Foundation Stage 2008, when looking at maths, most of the activities cover more than one area of mathematical development, and when contextualised within the setting will give access to development across a range of areas of learning. In the early years, children's activities are open-ended and play-based, so it is difficult to separate maths and science into discrete lessons. It can be easier to combine the learning of both subjects and make the learning more real life, allowing children to make sense of their discoveries. Lewis Kelly in 2012 stated that arguments in support of this approach are based in an understanding of child development, and that children do not assign particular activities to a particular subject, and therefore this approach more closely mirrors the way they learn. Hayes 2010 stated that cross-curricular teaching is often associated with thematic teaching. Therefore, links between maths and science can be found through thematic topics, for example in the role play area, which could be set up as a fruit and vegetable shop or a science lab. Both will allow children to explore the idea of mixing materials, measuring and investigating the world around them. However, the links between maths and science are deep-rooted. Rosemary Feasey stated, "At the heart of science is mathematics. Science, whether in a research laboratory or the primary classroom, relies on a collection of quantitative data so that comparisons can be made, patterns and trends noted in order to draw conclusions." Meaning that the links don't have to be forced by a theme, they are natural partners. As with any maths or science lesson, you will not be able to get away from the other, for example looking at measuring and handling data. Bose et al. Discuss in great detail how subjects aren't just alike, they are learned in like together, and that maths and science have the same learning processes to go through. Looking at planning cross-curricular lessons, Hayes 2010 states that the enthusiasm from cross-curricular teaching might diminish somewhat when the practicalities of planning and implementation have to be addressed. The links may well be obvious when looking at a well-planned lesson, however, these links do need to be carefully planned. Children's maths and science knowledge needs to be matched up. For example, in a reception class, a popular lesson is to weigh various objects and estimate and record their findings. However, children will need a sound understanding of number if they are using scales. The practitioner will need to ensure that the specific skills needed match the mathematical skills required. This is an example from some planning from SE1B. This is a maths lesson, but the children will be using scientific skills such as estimation and investigation throughout all activities. This lesson has been well matched to the scientific and mathematical skills of the children. For example, they will be using non-standard measures so that the maths work is not above their level of understanding. Cross-curricular issues cannot be discussed without the mention of the use of ICT in schools. ICT is a subject that can be linked to all areas of the curriculum easily. Pollard 2008 states that teachers are expected to use ICT across the curriculum. Former government agency Bechter in 2009 claimed that there are major opportunities for children to use ICT when learning maths and science. In maths, this is in the form of learning from feedback, exploring data, teaching the computer or coding, and developing visual imagery. In science, Bechter states that ICT can make a distinctive contribution to the teaching of learning of science in Key Stages 1 and 2. Hammond 2014 stated that ICT can have a positive impact on standards in the primary school. This could be due to the fact that children can now access a range of media online, so that their sources of information are not just books or the teacher. They can use websites, programs and videos, all of which are available to children at the touch of a button. From personal experience, children today are using ICT more and more in schools, whether it be using an interactive whiteboard, B-bots or other interactive computer programs. ICT also provides a useful tool for assessment in some schools. There are online assessment applications that children's progress can be tracked through, and it can be a way of communicating with parents also. Hall and Higgins 2002 state that the burning questions are not whether computers should be used, but where and how ICT can be used to enlarge and enrich young children's experience of learning. The advantages of cross-curricular teaching and learning are easy to see. Many have praised this way of learning. In the early years, even more so since the Tikal report in 2011, practitioners are encouraged to make the learning real life, to give children interactive opportunities, and to start with what the children know. White 2012 stated that using a cross-curricular approach can provide opportunities to make the learning relevant and meaningful through real-world contexts. This argument is enforced by Greenwood 2013, who stated that, in the future, children will need to have the ability and flexibility to draw from many fields and solve problems that have interrelated factors. When looking at maths and science together, Bose et al. 2010 claim that science provides maths with interesting problems to investigate, and mathematics provides science with powerful tools to use in analysing them. They also discuss how the vocabulary is often similar in maths and science, so it can be beneficial to learn them together. Many claim that children learn better when the learning is connected, Greenwood 2013, and that this mode of organisation motivates the students more, and it is well recognised that children learn better when well motivated and engaged. This is backed up by Ferner and Kumar 2007, who stated that discrete subject timetables can be seen as a jigsaw puzzle without a picture. And if done properly, integration of maths and science could bring together overlapping concepts and principles in a meaningful way and enrich the learning context. There are also many people that are against this type of pedagogy. Cross-curricular approaches can be considered a strain on teachers. Providing real-life experiences through science in maths can cause problems for practitioners. Greenwood states that a major problem with integration is simply that it demands sharp subject matter understanding. He stated that many teachers feel that they have not had adequate training for a cross-curricular approach. As discussed earlier, it can lead to problems with planning. Hayes 2010 stated that sometimes cross-curricular learning can give the children too much choice, which allows children to avoid areas of learning which they find hard. This idea of planning becoming a problem is reiterated in Greenwood 2013, who stated that the links made between subjects in planning may be weak and contrived. Andrew Pollard 2008 discusses that one of the risks of across curricular themes and links is that it can produce an impractical and overcrowded curriculum. Some claim that it is much more straightforward to have discrete subjects across all key stages and keep the learning independent from one another. The use of ICT within maths and science and other subject areas can hinder the learning of the subject, as all ICT resources call for the children to have the skills to use the equipment. Andrew Pollard, 2008, said that there is also the viewpoint that to use ICT effectively in schools can be expensive and difficult to organise. In my current placement school, they have enough laptops for one class and a specific timetable for the use. Foundation stage do not have a specified time slot for the use of them, so they miss out on this resource. There are many more advantages and disadvantages to a cross-curricular approach, and the debate will remain in education for many years to come. This presentation has shown that if well planned, cross-curricular teaching of maths and science can be very beneficial to both the children and the practitioners. It is also clear that within an early years setting, much of the learning that takes place, whether it be through play or through teacher-led activities, uses a cross-curricular approach naturally. Young children need real-life experiences to put their learning into practice and to test out their newfound knowledge. So integrating maths and science in the early years is, and I quote Alleman and Brophy 1993, one of those ideas that is obviously good.